Call a meeting to order. I'll note that all board members are present. Nice to see you all. And I will move first, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes from our August 19th, 2021 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, next up, we have a report from our secretary. Good morning, Joe.
Yes, good morning, Mayor. I'm pleased to report that I believe the board reached a consensus to continue to meet in person unless health conditions change or if anyone has any concerns in that regard.
Good.
And secondly, we have new correspondence from Mr. Giardine, which I sent electronically, but also you have a personal copy. And that completes my report.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up, a report from our program manager. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, everyone. Thought I'd start with, wanted to kind of highlight some pictures that progress photos that we accomplished over the course of the summer here.
Great.
Larry, are you able to see that, or is that?
Yeah, I can see it. I'll just turn my chair.
You want me to
here.
turn it a little bit more, or you?
No, I'm good. Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
though.
All
I'm
right,
good.
I just want to make sure everybody can see that. So just going to kind of walk through, got a lot of before and afters here, and pretty clear. This first one is at Clary in the locker rooms. Obviously, you can see the left and right in terms of the differences there. New lockers, new floors, new benches, lighting, ceilings, paint. So it was a pretty significant improvement there. Typical classroom, the before and the after, floors, ceilings, casework, furniture, and lighting, obviously. And if you can see in the upper portion of the photo and the after photo in many of those rooms and the interior rooms, we added the transoms above to get the natural light in from the outside. So it made a big difference in those interior classrooms. As you know, we don't have classrooms that are on the perimeter. They're all kind of consolidated in the middle, and then the corridor runs around the outside. So pretty significant difference. Before and after of the site work that we did, new sidewalks out front, new entryway there, and not a tremendous amount in terms of landscaping, just kind of featured the trees there with building the sidewalks around them. So, but much needed improvement there. This is the main office. Pretty significant transformation here in terms of the new reception desk. Again, ceilings, floors, walls, lights, casework, countertop, etc. So pretty nice transformation. Go ahead, Sean. This is over at Corcoran. Again, just a before and after shot that here that, we now have the windows in there. We got a new sign out in the front of the building. And then we did a tremendous amount of site work over at Corcoran this summer as well in terms of replacing parking lots, curbing, etc. So that's kind of a shot of that to see that. And if you've been over there, it's probably a little more impressive to see it in person, but significant improvement. Auditorium seating, I just wanted to note the photo, the photo on the right-hand side is in progress. Those are the new seats. However, the new carpet, we had a little bit of a procurement issue on carpet, but that will be going in shortly to carpet the aisleways down there through the auditorium. Tennis courts, resurfaced tennis courts, pretty significant improvement there as well at Corcoran. Corporate locker rooms didn't get a good. Ironically enough, it's when you go back in time and you look and you hope you have all these before photos, but you sometimes miss them. But that's those are both after photos, but some nice improvements there again with the wall tile, new fixtures, lighting, lockers, benches, and flooring, which made a big difference. Over here we replaced the gym floor, new wall pads. This one was a bit of a challenge. We had abatement that had to actually happen underneath the gym floor, which is a pretty extensive operation to remove all of that this summer to pull all that up and grind the floor and then get the new floor back down. But it came out really nice. Corcoran, the renovations here were limited to ceilings. We were really just trying to feature the natural light that you get into the rooms now, whereas before you had no exterior windows. Takes us over to Danforth, just kind of a before and after of the entryway there. We replaced, all the windows in the building, new entry doors, a whole new entry in terms of how you come in with the secure vestibule, etc. inside, so just kind of a shot of before and after. Inside, we replaced what used to be carpet in all the corridors over there, and then redid the stairs, new railings, new floors, ceilings, lights, etc. So big improvement. There's a before shot of the corridor with the carpet in it. Painted the lockers. We didn't replace them, but painted the lockers. They came out nice, and redid all the trim, all the wood trim that was in there. We refurbished that and got new floors down, of course. So, another pretty significant transformation here, that gym, the new windows in the photo in the right-hand side, the upper corner, we got new windows in there to get a lot of natural light in there. Refinished the floor, new wall pads, new basketball accessories. So pretty nice transformation there as well. And can you just jump back once more, Sean? On the left-hand side, if you can see on that photo on the right and the left-hand side of that photo, we also created a pocket there to put some bleachers in, whereas before they didn't have any spectator spots there at all. So tough to get these pictures, but there's this significant transformation in the library in terms of all new carpet in there, all new new lights, ceilings, paint. So big improvement there. Just a little tough to capture on the photo. Site work at Danforth was new parking areas, replaced all the parking areas, did some select sidewalk replacement there, didn't replace all of it, but some nice improvement there as well. Just another shot of the elevation of the windows that were replaced throughout the building. Made a big improvement on the probably more on the inside than the outside. I mean, the outside looks nice too, but the inside, the natural light is great. Cafeteria at Danforth, we got rid of the pink doors and repainted, and got new floors, ceilings, lights, furniture. So nice difference there. This is jumping back over to Fowler. We replaced the seating in the auditorium. Fowler team rooms, just some shots there before and after replacement. Again, did floors, lockers, lighting. So made some nice improvements there. This is just a shot. Again, this is a tough one to get photos of because it's kind of a long rectangular building, but this is the new concession storage building on the interior. So
is that actually set up so our team's actually going to go in there?
Yeah.
Using it as their locker room?
yeah,
Okay.
during games and stuff, they can access that. So
Gotcha.
yep. Is this the animated, or is this just a before? So that's just a before, right? And if it works right, we got a little animation for how this came together. Some photos of the addition there as we started to bring that to life. So just wanted to kind of give a little time lapse there of how that came together over the course here. And just would have liked to have a little more grass in that photo, but is what it is. So we'll get there. So out front, the construction of the new loop out in the front, just a progress photo there. And I think we go to the next one, Sean. We got a finished one. Just some shots of the interior of the addition, of the rooms in the addition. Corridor and stairwell of the interior. That's the south entrance, and then the before on the south entrance, and then the after, where we added the ADA accessible ramp, new stairs, new railings, and replaced all the sidewalk on that side. So significant improvement there. Henniger, the locker rooms at the lower level, again, that was a complete, that was a complete gut and rehab in that lower level. We took out every wall that was down there, put all new plumbing and underground in, all new lockers, interior walls, etc. So it's a nice space, bit of a maze. If you've been down there, there's lots of space down there and lots of different areas. So, and the weight room is down there as well. Nottingham main entrance, again, pretty nice transformation here on the outside. And This is a shot of the window replacement that we're doing. So this was additional work that we did. It was like a phase 2 for Nottingham, where we applied some of the remaining funds that we had to remove that glass block that was in the classrooms and replace it with full-length windows, full-length operable windows in the classrooms. So you can see from the interior a pretty significant difference in terms of the amount of light that you're going to get in. You can jump over. And then even on the outside, that's the left is the before of the glass block that was in, and the after is with the new windows in. So just even from the outside aesthetically too, it made some nice improvements. The library, which I think you've seen some photos of that before, but it's a pretty significant transformation from what it was to where it is now in terms of all the open structure and much bigger feel in there. That's the main lobby where we uncovered when we started that work over there. These domes, they were above the ceiling, and when they pulled the ceilings out, we decided to repurpose using those. They were plaster domes that were there previously, so that was a bit of a design change, but the architect incorporated the domes into the building, and then obviously the feature lighting. And that's the new main lobby stairs that goes up into the library. Nice feature again when you walk in. That lobby looks spectacular. Again, did some part of that additional phase, the locker replacements in that corridor, and then we did the railings as well. Whoop. This one's a little tough, but we replaced the lighting at Nottingham with indirect lighting. So the photo on the left, you can see that the lights were all above the pool, which is not ideal. Also from a maintenance perspective, to get up there to change bulbs is an endeavor for facilities group to do that. So we replaced it with the indirect lighting from the side that washes up over the ceiling, and they get less reflection and shadow on the water, so it's better visually as well for folks. So. Good. Any questions on any of that?
I have one humory question. So when you did the gyms at the school, you couldn't find the pads for the wall and the color that the school is?
I will tell you that I never pick colors, so I stay out of that conversation. That's typically an architectural or a programming discussion that they have with either the school or the facilities.
Question.
Yeah. No, I learned that a long time ago. I don't pick colors. It's just not what I do. So, all right. Beyond that, I just get into our regular updates here, starting in the upper left as we normally do in terms of the project approvals and procurement. Not a whole lot, nothing to speak to at the moment with respect to procurement, nothing out to bid. We do have a couple resolutions this morning for you to increase not to exceed amounts. These are not budget changes. These are just not to exceed amounts for the individual contractors. At Bellevue, in fact, it's for the architect. To increase their reimbursable for there. At Nottingham, it's to increase again the not to exceed amount there for some additional work. And I have a typo there in the last one where it indicates Blodgett. That should in fact state Danforth, and that's been necessitated by the boiler abatement and the demolition that we did over there. Was a little bit more than what was anticipated. We knew that was going to be a challenge, and there was some conditions there that didn't reveal themselves until we actually got into it. And just for point of reference, that photo that I have of Danforth, if you see there, it's there was 3 significant, fire tube boilers there that are all made out of 1/2-inch steel. So they had to remove all those, and the way that was constructed was not exactly as anticipated. So it led to couple more weeks of abatement that was required over there, so that chewed up the budget that we had and went a little bit further. But once we were into it, we're into it. So the formulation of change orders to state continues. Early aid start waivers was something we've been working on even this week to get those in. That's the documentation that goes to the state that gets the aid flowing for the project. So those have been assembled and will be submitted formally here in September. In terms of the project closeout, we just continue the buildings that are there to get those. The focus is now back on those, given the conclusion of some of the other items that we were chasing. We're back into those again, with the target being getting a few of those closed out here in the fourth quarter before the end of the year and get those final paid so that we can allow us to get final cost reports in. We're not seeking any action this month, but just as a heads up for next month, we are going to make a couple more building budget changes. It's something that is still being discussed with the district. I know, Jaime, with your folks, and it's something we're going to take to the school board first, and then we come back here. And again, it's part of that true up at the end of the project here of where do we stand with dollars, and then moving dollars around so that we can use those effectively and don't end up with, a lot of extra at the end. So it's part of that effort. In terms of construction updates, the Fowler interior package, we're getting close to the end of that, and going to dial that down this fall. Concession storage building, the metal roof in fact did show up finally. We had an issue with that, so it is here, and that work is now underway. Corcoran, by and large, our efforts over there are focused over in C building, and getting the auditorium and the music suites turned over. Is the focus at the moment. The balance of the building is in that punch list closeout phase, but that's the area of the building that we're dialed down to get turned back over. So at Henniger, again, we're moving forward with the other phases of construction. We are in fact still running to ground operational issues as they develop over there, stuff that we find, the issues that, are revealed with occupancy. So we're still running those to ground.
So a question before you move off Henniger, because
Sure.
Our media likes to report certain things. So the report was with the fire things. Are they covered now? Did we get those covered?
Yeah, no, I appreciate bringing that up. So I think there was a bit of confusion about those. What we're referring to is the fire alarm was in and active and certified and functional, and inspected. The covers that everybody keeps talking about are like a cover, plastic cover that goes over the face of the fire alarm to prevent somebody from accidentally bumping into it or hitting it, and you have to lift the cover. Those were not specified as part of the project, the covers. That you do have them in other buildings. In this particular building, that wasn't a requirement. They don't impact the operation of the fire alarm system. They're really there to just, like I said, for an accidental trip, or if somebody was to bang into it. We didn't purchase them as part of the project. They have been installed subsequently by the district directly to have those in place. But thank you for clarifying, because it's been.
So since Council President started on Henniger, let's just
Sure.
let's just dig into Henniger I'm sure there are other questions. So, Pat.
So, to follow up on Helen, so it could pass inspection without the covers?
Yeah. I would tell you that a majority of the systems that I put in do not have those plastic covers. The pull station is as you would typically see. This is a cover that would go over the top of it, like a clear plastic cover, but it doesn't have anything to do with the operation of the fire alarm itself.
So if the cover's on, does it make it harder for the children to do for the students to do the alarm?
It's another step, right? You have to physically remove the cover to get to the actual pull station. So yeah, it can act as a bit of more of a deterrent. Doesn't stop them, but it acts as a deterrent. So.
Hey, Tom, why don't you come up to the mic since we're recording? And yeah, I'd be interested just your full consideration about covers, ink dye, those things.
The covers are alarmed, so when you pull up that plastic cover, it sets off an alarm. So to set the alarm off in the building, you have to set that plastic cover off, and then you gotta pull the alarm. So it gives you another 10, 15 seconds, so an adult can see or hear that that's gone. So that's how we commonly use those.
Those are two separate alarms? An alarm
Correct.
that goes off when the cover goes up?
A local
alarm.
And then the
Right.
full alarm.
When you pull the cover up and that alarm goes off, that does not set off the fire alarm.
Okay.
So we have those on like the AEDs. If you open up an AED box, it sets off a local alarm. It doesn't set off the fire alarm, so somebody knows the AED box is open. We have something similar like that.
So the 10 to 15 second doesn't give enough time to the administration to figure anything out, though.
It helps. So we've put these in various buildings over the years. It helps. We've generally used them with our younger kids and with our younger students. Usually when they hear that alarm, that scares them and usually they stop. So it has worked with our younger students, I think, very effectively. But it does give anybody that's monitoring the halls, a heads up that somebody's, got a cover up and could pull an alarm, yes.
So if you put that cover back down, does the fire alarm not go off?
The fire alarm never goes off with the cover. The cover just is a local alarm. It'll make a
No,
noise.
but you're saying, okay, see, the way I understood it is you said you lift up the cover and then you have 10 to 15 seconds
No.
before the regular fire alarm
No,
goes
as
off.
soon as you lift that cover up, it makes an alarm noise, and it's not gonna go
Right.
off until that cover goes back down.
And
That's-
then you have to physically
So
pull
then,
up.
so,
Yeah, it's 2 steps.
so if you put the cover back down, then the regular fire alarm doesn't go off?
No, it would-
No.
Not unless you pull the actual pull station, so it'd be a 2-step. You
Oh,
lift the
okay.
cover, Then you put your
Then-
hand on there and you pull it down.
Okay.
There's- The cover is just to give a local alarm, it's a deterrent concept, so that you hope that somebody, they know that's gonna go off immediately as soon as they touch it, and maybe it'll just.
That scares little kids, that don't scare them big kids.
Also, I mean, that brings up the question, though, was there consideration about whether or not to include these covers to begin with, and was there a intentional decision made not to?
That's a real good question, Mayor. Generally speaking, we put these covers in,
Uh-huh.
and I think it didn't get caught in the project, to be frank. I think we missed it.
Okay, and how about the ink that I know we're looking at?
No, we've ordered the ink.
Yep.
The ink is supposed to be here. It's a specialty ink. The fire department's recommended it, and we've looked at it.
Okay.
So basically, this is like a gel that goes on the pull stations. We can put it on any pull station anywhere in the district. If you touch it, it's like going to the bank and trying to, you'll get ink on your hands, and then when you try to wash your hands, there's a video, your hands will turn very, very blue.
So that's when they actually pull, not the pull box, but the alarm?
With the alarm, and you don't have to pull it, if you
just have to
touch
touch
it,
it.
you just gotta touch it, you're
Okay.
gonna get it on you, so.
Okay. And again, not something that was considered initially, but hopefully will,
It's sort of a procedural thing, and the superintendent, we've talked to him about it, because,
this guy
you know,
right here?
yes,
Okay.
because if somebody rubs up against it, or
Yeah.
when we're testing the alarms, like with the fire department, we gotta warn people, otherwise
Yeah.
there's gonna be some people that aren't too happy with ink on their hands.
Understood. But presumably, both the covers and the ink will be considered for future projects?
Yeah, the ink, again, it's on a syringe, so you
So
can.
you can do it anywhere?
You can do it anytime,
Okay.
any place, yeah.
Okay.
So you can do it at other high schools also?
We could do it at any building.
So the question for me is, when you pull the plastic, you say local alarm. That's local meaning building.
Local meaning right by it,
Right by it, right? So it makes the noise, it's a buzzer noise, whatever.
in that corridor.
And that doesn't go to the fire department, though?
Correct.
Until you pull the
Correct.
other alarm. So one is much more to alert administration or the school itself? Okay, all right. And the second question is, I know this is sort of piggybacking. I know we're talking about the ink and we're talking about the covers. So is there then a plan in place to now go and, sort of outfit them throughout the high schools if we think that is an issue? I
Yeah,
mean,
the plan is that we're gonna be using the ink not only at Henninger, it's gonna be used in all the high schools and middle schools also.
So then, as long as we're talking about Henniger, are all the locks now in?
To my knowledge, yes.
What
Step back up,
happened
Chris.
that, what happened that they weren't installed before school started?
Yeah, I'll try and not make it overly complicated in terms of what it was, but so we had 13 classroom doors in the addition, and we have what we call a removable core, which is the thing you put the key in. So the lock was there, the handle was there, the door functioned. It's an actual cylinder that you basically insert and turn a key, and then it locks into place. That was what wasn't in place. And truthfully, at the end of the day, I think the intention was to have them there. It literally is a very short operation. I mean, at each door, you're spending a minute or two and putting it in. I think the intention was to do it, and it didn't happen. why it didn't happen, I don't have a great answer for you, other than the fact that in the heat of trying to get everything else done that we were doing in that last few days, it just didn't come together. We did it very shortly thereafter, once it was discovered that they weren't there. So we put those in, and they're there now. The other piece that doesn't impact our ability to do that was that I think there was some confusion generally about the type of core that was going to be in there. The vendor that supplies the locks, we put them in the lower level. It was discovered that it didn't work with the key that the district wanted it to work with, meaning it wasn't keyed correctly. So we put the ones in the lower level. We stopped and didn't put the ones in the classroom. And I think there was some discussion about what do we want to do? How are we going to do it? At the end of the day, what should have been done is just put in what we had and hand out temporary keys. And that ultimately was the solution that we came to. It just should have occurred before, you know, we turned over the building and occupied. So it was a miss. So, and I would chalk it up to probably a communication gap somewhere along the line that, you know, yes, we can do that. Okay, let's do that. And then it didn't get followed, didn't get run to ground. So, but go ahead, Mayor.
Other questions?
Sure.
So I toured the school with the superintendent on Monday. Couple other concerns, HVAC system, certain areas weren't being air conditioned. Can anybody speak to that?
You can.
There's one unit that we've had some issues with, that served an older section of the building, and that's been a gremlin, a couple times this summer. So that we had an issue with yesterday. We did have an issue this morning with the HVAC in the new addition, and that was being addressed this morning when I left here.
Okay.
So and that does happen in a lot of our buildings, especially during the shoulder months, because you're heating one day and you're cooling the next.
Yeah. So the original issue was not a construction-related issue, just an existing system issue?
No, it's a new unit that's
Okay.
serving an unrenovated area of the building.
Okay.
And we had issues with that unit actually last summer too. So we've been fixing it as it goes, but we haven't found like a smoking gun, like there's a
Yeah.
bad, coil or starter or something in there, so.
And also reports of the PA system not being consistently effective in all parts of the school?
Yeah, so the PA system was installed, first of all, it's a bit of a hybrid at the moment, meaning we haven't replaced all of it, but we've replaced it in a majority of the building. So the system was put in, the PA was in, it was functioning on two separate issues. There was 2 rooms that got missed, just missed. I can't offer you an explanation other than that they did a ton of rooms over there and they missed 2 of them. That's been since corrected. The second issue, well, there's 3 issues. The second issue is we did have a component of the system that went bad. It was a bad network connection on this one component. That affected 12 rooms. That kind of, as I understand it, it quit. And unbeknownst to folks until we started to occupy and people said, I can't, my room's not working. So that was not an incomplete, it was completed, and then at some point that card quit and caused a problem. I have not been able to definitively say, when did that stop? Did that stop 3 days before school or a week before school? Because the system was in. So that's that. The third issue has to do with amplification in the corridors. There was a concern that it's not loud enough.
Right.
Again, drilling into that one, the system has been installed the way it was supposed to. There was input way back early on, input from the facilities group about how they wanted the PA in the hallways amplified in terms of the level of amplification. It appears that didn't get incorporated correctly into the documents in terms of that level of amplification that was requested. So that one is kind of a design component to that one. So we put the system in as it was drawn, but we need to now increase that amplification. It's unfortunate because it was, like I said, it was a discussion during the design period, but it didn't get captured by the electrical component or the electrical design to have that. So, three issues there, so.
There were some classrooms that the push button to talk
Correct.
button was not installed properly, was
There
not
was-
connected, the speakers were not there.
There was two
So-
that were just straight up missing, they weren't there. And then I had about 12 that stopped working. The question is, when did they, they stopped, but it didn't notify anybody that was no longer functioning. So it wasn't until, and we have this all the time, when you finally get into a building, you get the full occupancy, and we start to actually use the building, it reveals stuff, it always does, and, and then we have to deal with it. The unfortunate part about this one is, some of the stuff that was revealed were things that, we're not happy about, that were not where they were supposed to be.
So, security cameras?
Sure.
Are they all installed now? Are we still missing some? What happened that we didn't have them there?
Sure. So we have, there's a total of, don't quote me exactly, but there's about 130 plus or minus total that will be put in once we're finally done at the end of next summer. So fall of '22, there'll be like 130 of them in the building, which is a significant difference from what they had prior to. But what we're doing is, as we renovate the building, as we tear ceilings out and put ceilings back in, the cameras have been going in progressively. In other words, we're not gonna come in and tear down, put a camera in and then tear the ceiling down later, and then take the camera and put it back up. So that's been a progressive, as we go, we put them in. So, and there's a few different steps involved in the cameras. I've got, 3 to 5 entities, that are involved in the camera install. So I have our general contractor, there's an electrical contractor, and then the electrical contractor has a subcontractor that actually does the technical portion of it. And then there's an interface between that technical contractor and the district's IT folks. So the reason I'm just telling you all that is that all that communication, in order to make that camera turn on, those 4 or 5 entities all have to talk to each other, and it's a sequence. The weeks leading up to school, the cameras were physically installed, meaning mounted, aimed. The cabling was run back to the respective data closet to a switch. And then there's a handoff that happens that then the specialty vendor, the district will come in and patch these in, meaning physically tie these in with the final connection. Then the vendor does the programming on the camera, and then the district is able to see the camera on their network. What I think happened there was we had cameras in and wiring in. I'm not sure I think the handoff of one vendor to another vendor and some of that communication there, I think that's where we had some issues. Because I think there was some discovery of, oh, you're ready for me, I didn't know you were ready for me. Okay, I'll get there. And then when we did get there and start to bring them out, we did have a programming issue with the network that we pretty quickly resolved. But I would tell you that was part of that issue, and in terms of that a communication component, and a little tough to get arms around exactly where that came off the tracks about who said what to who, when, and where. But nonetheless, I think we did it well at the other buildings. We were able to get that coordination to happen a little bit more effectively. On this one, I think that communication could use some improvement, in terms of how we do that and formalizing that handoff.
So Chris, I've been through a lot of different renovations of the buildings, and there's always some glitches, but there were a lot of glitches at Henniger.
Yeah.
And I have parents, I can't even go out in the community without parents saying, how am I gonna know my kid is safe? And they're not even at Henniger. So how did so many glitches happen at Henniger?
And can I just piggyback on top of that? I agree with Pat, because I'm listening to you talk about all this miscommunication on different pieces of this project. So there's no something to make sure that we're all communicating before we start this process? Because when you're talking about Henniger, we're all taking a hit for that.
Yeah.
Through the media. So how do we have something to catch the miscommunication?
No, it's a great question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. So What we do is about a month before, 3 weeks or so before school, we have a master checklist, which I'm not gonna put up on the screen because you couldn't read it anyway, and it covers phone, PA, fire alarm, access control, elevators, all that stuff we list on there, and every week over week, we go through that. So there is a systems in place, there is a processes in place, where that, like any other operation, right, where that gets, you know, and I ask, we will ask, where are we with this? Are we in a good position? Is this on track to be activated? And then, you know, the respective parties will report out. And the challenge there is that when I have about 4 or 5 different entities involved, you're leaning on and you're relying on that report out that says we're good. To fact check at every level all the way down is obviously inherently a challenge, but we have folks that are responsible for that, and that should happen. But as we get closer to the end and everybody's pushing to get to the deadline, like anything else, everybody's scrambling. And so some of those processes, you know, may have not been followed completely in terms of that formal handoff. You know, a conversation occurred instead of an email that says, hey, we're ready for you as of this date. You know what I mean? A conversation happened because we're all rushing to get there. So, but we do have those processes in place. And in terms of opening the building, you know, there's a couple different levels there as well. You know, we have the inspection by the third party, in this case, the fire department, to walk the building. We have an architect that then does the same exercise and certifies that to the state and puts it, you know, signs as a design professional that the building is ready for occupancy. So we do have some checks and balances that are there. And those were in place. You know, I can tell you that I walked Henniger myself, you know, the day before, or 2 days before school opened, with the fire marshal for a couple hours, walking through the building. The architect was there with us. So, you know, we did do that. But again, some of these things may not reveal themselves. We're focused on a life safety checklist as we're walking that building, right? And unfortunately, cameras are not on that occupancy checklist that we use to go through. We understand it's an operational issue, and it does translate to a health and safety component for you guys operationally. We get that, but you know, but we do have those, and the best I can offer you is, like I said, we get to the end and everybody's rushing at the end to try and get there, and people are trying to make it come together, and sometimes miscommunications happen.
But did you cringe like we did when it hit the media?
I'm sorry?
Did you guys cringe like we did when it hit the media?
Yeah, no, we don't like to hear that. Obviously, we take pride in what we're doing. All the trades that are over there take pride in what they're doing. Nobody wants that to happen, you know, and it's unfortunate, as you said, the 3 glitches that the 3 or 4 glitches that we had there were of significance, right? Combined with the other events that happened there, made it that much worse. You know, and I don't like jinxing myself, but I mean, the other buildings that we opened, you know, between Clary and Danforth and Corcoran, you know, we opened those by and large and we still had a couple little things there at those, but we were successful in those other ones. So it's just unfortunate that this one we had those combined with, you know, the other events that occurred there, you know, just.
So is there a way for you to develop an operational checklist?
Tom, feel free to step up at any point if you want to talk about that as well. 'Cause I know it sounds like some of the challenges were the handover from the contractors to the district. So like your assurances from both of you that will get better.
Well, one of the problems is whenever you're doing a project, all the electrical type systems get done at the end, okay? So as the superintendent walks through a room or I walk through a room, I can tell the floor is done, the ceiling's done, you know, the cameras, the card access, we can't always tell if that stuff's working until somebody turns it on. And like, I don't even have access to cameras. So I can't tell if cameras are working. I have to call our OSA department and have them go on and say, is this camera working? And like Chris said, I think because we had multiple agencies passing things back and forth, we do have a lot of meetings where we're checking things, and some of the stuff, it did fall, you know, and it's on me. Some of it's on me. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm responsible for checking these projects. We have a group here, we're all conscientious, and none of us wanted this, but we did have systems that we had issues with. We had issues with card access, security cameras, PA systems, you know, which are all electrical type systems, and we had issues with keys. So those have been probably the biggest issues, and they've been a thorn in all of our sides, and we're trying to work through the issues one by one, and we do have systems in place, but I think we got to tweak them some to do that going forward, so.
So this may just be sort of repetitive. Obviously, sometimes human error is going to happen, but in terms of the checklist, and you might have already said this, Tom, what I didn't necessarily hear is part of that is a testing system, right? So particularly when we're talking about the safety of children, when it comes to the electrical things, we don't expect our car makers to put a car on the road without checking to see whether or not that safety bag is going to deploy before they put it out. So is there then part of that checkoff system an actual testing system to see if it works? And we know sometimes it works today and it may not work tomorrow, but is that part of your checkoff system?
Yes.
The insurance
yes.
of the actual?
That's right in the technical specs,
Okay.
but yeah, they do that on the fire alarm system, all sorts of things we have testing.
And what I would say is, to your point, Mayor, the lesson learned for us, I think, on it as a group is, I think that passing of the baton from one entity to the next, I think that we would benefit from formalizing that a bit more and obtaining a name, the name of the individual with, the date and, okay, I've done this part, here's what I have, here's my report, here's my ring out of what I did, now it's to you. And I think that's an opportunity for us to from a lessons learned perspective, to get that, a little bit tighter.
I'll just say, and Superintendent, feel free if you have additional thoughts. As we've talked about in multiple meetings, we're doing a lot. And ultimately, that's a good thing. We're investing a lot into a lot of buildings. But with it does come logistical challenges. I think as Larry and others have stated, we all understand that some things are going to get missed and mistakes are going to be made. And while I think that we can accept that, we all need to agree that it's unacceptable ultimately, and that we need collectively to commit that we're going to do better. And I think I'm hearing that on certainly both of your parts. I think on behalf of the board, I can say we're willing to do that as well. We need to learn from this and get better.
Correct.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I visited the buildings on a weekly basis, and there's a lot of overpromise and a lot of under-delivery. They promised what they thought that I wanted to hear, but it wasn't done. And people didn't follow through. That's the problem.
Are you confident, Superintendent, that you've heard what you need to hear going forward to make sure these things don't happen again?
I feel better, but Mayor, I have said, and I shared this with Chris, I don't want meeting to plan. I want meeting to see action. Because we continue to plan and to plan and to plan, and then we continue to make the same mistake, the same issues are taking place. So I want things done. I don't want them to say, well, this is what we're gonna do. Show me what you're gonna do. Because at the end, we gotta be accountable to our parents, we gotta be accountable to the stakeholders and all that. And they're not gonna say the contractor didn't do.
That's right.
Gonna point at us, at the JSCB board, or at me, at the Board of Education, that we are not taking the health and safety of our students, seriously. That's a problem. That's a problem. There was some issues with the door. Chris knows about it, Tom knows about it. And they told me they'll be done tomorrow. Well, tomorrow came 2 weeks later. That's not tomorrow.
Right. And this has created so much mistrust in the community for our superintendent and the board that I'm very concerned. And there have been times when we've had the construction people come here and have made promises, yes, we'll get this done, yes, we'll get, and it doesn't get done. And so I have a lot of concerns about what's happening or what will happen in the future, and we really need to make sure these mistakes can't be repeated again.
Yeah, and I would say that I think that probably one of the mistakes that I think as a board is taking on all of these projects at once to, and I think that the more projects you take on, the less insurance you have with that quality control, because I think, as to the superintendent's point, a lot of this is really about that quality control. Now, I know that there are things in place, and Tom certainly oversees, I believe, some of the construction on behalf of the district. But when there's so many things going on, and, I mean, I feel for the superintendent, not to personalize this, but, you know, all of that falls on his shoulders in the end. And it certainly is not, you know, fair, but we know that those things happen. So I think it's a lesson learned for all of us that sometimes it's better, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And our families and our children deserve the quality. I would rather have one great school than 3 half-assed schools because we weren't assuring the quality. So I think that's a lesson learned for all of us.
In that we need to continue to learn from all this lesson. I mean, we know we have to go with the lowest bidder, but sometimes, you know what? The person is not able to deliver. And it's putting bids in every project out there, and then they can't deliver.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
a problem.
I think it has to be some accountability. I hear you, Tom, I know things happen, but like I said, I heard 4 excuses of why things didn't go the way they were supposed to. There has to be accountability, because we all have to provide accountability to every constituent we touch.
I fully appreciate it. I guess a couple things I would just expand on a little bit more in terms of that. I think one of the other ones that happens frequently, right, is the telephone game, right? Where you do that and one person says something and then it repeats 5 times down the line. That's part of, that's another area that is a perpetual improvement, because when one person says, oh, that'll be done, the version of done might not be that it's 100% finished, painted, everything is there. The version of done that we may be striving for or have identified with the team there is that we get to this point and that's where we're going to get to for now. And I think that gets lost frequently in translation, and that's something I think that as a group we could do better to get that clear and concise. What is done? What does that milestone mean? Because I think that often gets confused. And Larry, to your point, just to give some context, right? This project is $300 million. I've got over 200 different firms engaged on the project, and I'm talking about, I mean, aside from engineers and architects, right? So you have in excess of 200 different entities engaged in this thing. So you can see how that spirals, and then you magnify that by all the trades folks on top of it. It's a lot. And then we have, and again, another perpetual problem is that infamous 8 or 9 weeks that we get to do double the amount of work that you really could do reasonably, you know what I mean? But you don't have a choice because you have the summer months that you have to take that on. And just to give you a couple of metrics on that, like at Henniger specifically, right? So between June 1st and September 1st, right, we asked and answered over 100 questions. And those are questions that are coming from the folks that are building the building. Hey, this isn't as anticipated, this isn't as shown, what do you want to do here, how do you want to do that? Over 100 of them, from June 1 to September 1, asked and answered. So direction, a question asked, direction given, if there was a cost, determine the cost, approve the cost, put the work in place. So it's an endeavor is all I'm saying, and I'm not offering that as an excuse, just trying to give some context to what the team does, because it's not me, it's, you know, it's the teams that are out there building it and
So Chris, help me
managing it.
understand this, right? You're saying from June to September. So let's go back. Maybe I'm a little off, but the schools have been shut down for, what, a year and a half?
Some, and some portions of them, but there's still that summer work that we have to do where we come in, take over a space, and then have to turn that space back over, or come in and take out a system, whether it be electrical or HVAC or otherwise, and then get that back in. So in some cases, yes, we've had unoccupied buildings, such as the cases Danforth or at Clary, but other buildings have been a phased. I mean, Nottingham has been a phased progress all the way through the job. We've done progressive work, and then in the summer it intensifies. So
Chris, before this phase even started, in one of the board meetings, I did ask you specifically, can you guarantee that these many buildings, we're not going to run into the same issues that we did with Ed Smith and them? And you reassured me that this wasn't taking on too many buildings and that we would be able to finish on time, that you would be able to finish on time. So maybe you need to reassess how many buildings you can adequately do without this 8 to 10 weeks becoming such a problem, because Henniger's really it's really done a number on the parents in our community. So maybe that, you can't promise us these many buildings.
I'll never promise that everything is gonna be perfect, I won't.
Well, I know that you didn't say it was gonna be perfect, but this was a lot of mistakes at one building.
So, I understand the concern, certainly, I do.
Again, it's having, one contractor doing multiple building, multiple projects. So when I went to Brighton or Danforth and I complained, well, they pull people from the other ones to get the work there. They didn't go someplace else to hire or to bring people in. They're just taking workers from within the projects that we have, and that's a problem. Because then we're behind.
Mayor, I did have two other topics that I did want to cover beyond Henniger. if we could.
Absolutely, yep. No, I think we've said what we need to say on Henniger.
And I appreciate that, and I'm always available and welcome questions. Nate's here today too, so if there's anything we need to go, anybody has questions on that are more in the weeds on the actual construction that's out there, we can certainly stick around after and have some additional conversations if we needed to.
Thank you.
But anytime we want that, and I want to get the accurate information forward to folks, because it's, you can't do what you need to do if you don't have, if you're not armed with information. So we want to make sure we get that to you. I have just as you know, we took the boilers out at Danforth. We made the decision to take the old boilers out and get those out of the building and remove that material. That has been an endeavor. You heard me spoke to it earlier. My focus, the focus right now of the team over there is at Danforth is to get heat back on in that building. We needed to get the old boilers out of the way to allow the piping to occur over there. So that is an area of focus at the moment. It's an area of concern. And we have a plan to get there, but, it'd be remiss to say that that isn't something that people are focused on and have some concern over the ability to get there.
So Chris, what's the plan, because we're getting into the winter months?
The plan is it's a two-phased approach. The first phase is to get an existing boiler that is still there re-operational again. So we're not going from zero. We're going to reactivate that boiler. That boiler will provide heat to temper the building, and get us through the shoulder season. But obviously we need to get the permanent, the additional boilers in place for that heat load that we know is inevitably coming for the heart of the winter.
Any backup plan, any temporary measures that can be put in place?
We have opportunities. If we had to go to a temporary boiler, we could certainly do that, like a trailer mounted boiler if we needed to, if we really got into a problem.
Okay.
So, and again, I'm not sounding an alarm. I'm just saying that is something that we're focused on right now to be able to get that done. It was a lot of work to get that out of there. So,
Some of that equipment was supposed to be removed by the end of August. That has not happened completely.
we were supposed to have the abatement and the demo and abatement that happened over there was supposed to be done a couple weeks ago, and we ran long on that. Just because of the nature of, we thought that they could go in and accomplish a certain sequence. When they actually got in there and started to do some of the demo, they found out that it was constructed differently than anticipated. We couldn't see that until we actually started to do destructive work. Once they realized where that is, that's what's extended the abatement. The abatement had to go longer before we could move into a traditional demo phase. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, the other one that I just wanted to bring to attention, I think we largely have arms around it, but at Elms, we had, as part of the project, to go in and address some structural issues with the foundation there, where we're digging down in what they call underpinning, which is supporting the existing foundation by basically constructing another foundation under that foundation. Again, once we started to open that up and we started to do some demolition, there was a lot more extensive cracking of interior walls than was previously seen or were able to be seen. So the engineers are over there, they're monitoring several things, and they're identifying some additional work over there for that. So we're working on that, and standing here today, we're still assessing whether that's going to impact that ability to reoccupy, but this is not something that we can just save for later. You're there, you have it opened up. Now is the time to address it. So just making folks aware of that, and I will keep you posted as we advance that work. But that was supposed to be another one that, you know, was coming back together here in the next few months. And there's just some concern there that that may extend out to address that issue. I think that's concludes what I had. No, happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have our financial summary. Donna?
Good morning. Okay, we have a short report this month, our summary, and this is for the month of July. And right at the top, we've got some highlights there. We have interest earnings of $1,407. The vendor payments approved and paid in July were a total of $5.9 million. And we ended the month with $54.7 million in cash. On the first column there, we're showing the month's activity for the cash inflows. And the only thing that we're showing for the inflows is the $1,407. Then the year-to-date column obviously shows the same thing because year-to-date we're in the month of July. It's our first month for the fiscal year 21-22. And we're projecting for this fiscal year in the projected column $33 million, which is scheduled to occur in March for the state aid intercept. And that money will be used to make debt service payments. Also, we're scheduled to receive in November and April the federal subsidy payments. And we're also projecting that we'll have an interest earning of $7,700 for 21-22. In the bottom, we have the cash outflows, and for the month, our vendor payments, construction payments for July was $5.5 million, and our incidentals was $424,000 for a total of $5.9. The year-to-date column, of course, shows the same thing because we're in July. And then our projected for fiscal year 21-22 for vendor payments for construction is about $45 million, 3.5 for incidentals, and our debt service payments will be $34.1 million, which will occur in November and May. And the JSCB payments that are showed in the inflows will be transferred out to the district to help offset debt service payments. At the bottom there, we have a nice graph that shows the cash inflows of $34.4 million. The $1,407 for the interest earnings doesn't show on there because it's obviously the graph's in millions. And the cash outflows is $5.9 million. And that is in the blue, and in the orange at 78. We're projecting $78.09 million. And that concludes my report. Does anybody have questions?
Donna?
No? Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we've got some resolutions here, so I'm going to turn it back over to Joe to walk us through them.
Yes, thank you. We have several resolutions this morning, beginning with resolution number 27, which would authorize our monthly payments to the various contractors.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Then we have resolution number 28, which would authorize an amendment to the Stieglitz-Snyder architect contract at Bellevue in order to increase reimbursable expenses by $25,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Then we have resolution number 29, which would amend the contract with Pack and Associates at the Danforth Middle School to increase their construction contingency budget by $250,000.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And finally, we have resolution number 30, which would amend the contract with Huber Brewer for their work at Nottingham to also increase their construction contingency budget by $250,000.
So move.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
That completes our resolutions for today.
Any other business to come before the board? Adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.